and it's a weird beef because again, it's not me picking on noobs, but but I see it in real life, like in my business. So hobbyists not trying very hard, I guess, in my opinion, to educate themselves. But we can examine that because it's just I'll experience something and I'll be like, man, that dude didn't know what he was doing. And I can't believe he was doing this. And then, I don't know if I want to be mad about it towards the person or just like, oh, well, that's how you find out. But
Yeah.
so I went and did maintenance in a high rise, like the 17th floor in downtown Houston. It was pretty cool. It's cool being up there. Cool
17
view.
is such a tall building.
No, I think it went to 32.
Ooh.
But he was only on 17. But anyway, so I cleaned this aquarium in a high rise, and it was weird because I guess and I think a lot of people do this. When I first started, we're walking up because he had to help me get into the building. We're walking up and I'm just doing the normal chit chat. So how long have you had the aquarium? Blah, blah, blah. And he was being slightly defensive, not defensive, but like, oh yeah, I've had this for like a while now. And I've been keeping tanks for a while. Well, when I hold that in my mind and then the stuff that I found when I got up there, I was like, why would you say any of that? There's so many people that would call themselves saltwater hobbyists that don't seem to do much of any due diligence. And a matter of fact, I would posit that is most of them.
That's
most people that have a saltwater aquarium are not trying very hard.
Most people that do any hobby are not trying very hard. I think that is
just human nature
in the definition of hobby. It's something we do in our spare time for pleasure. I used to be really adamant about this and really, there are animals involved in this. We should be better.
Yeah.
But I think that's like trying to make it stop raining. It's you can't, that the impact you have on that is not big. And and you're just going to keep being frustrated because people are going to not do it. But it's the same with every hobby. We sit around, kite season is about to start. And we're already talking about, what are we going to do with people who don't read all the information that's out there? They don't know what they're doing. They're dangerous and they're argumentative. How do we handle that? And this year I'm going out and give fuck them.
Well, yeah, I can see what you're saying on that. Like you get out there to do your thing, and some guy's like, no, I know what I'm doing, and he like entangles someone's line, and
he's dangerous. Yeah, and he's dangerous, and he's fucking everybody else's day up. It's almost like somebody who goes, well, I read something that you could keep these in freshwater too, and you go, you don't do that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I used to be way more strident about this. It's really funny for me to be taking this side of it.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of going, how do they know to even know? We have no way of getting new hobbyists information. We have no way of getting old hobbyists information. It's all get out there and figure it out yourself. And that's
the part
tough,
that makes
man.
me sad is exactly like you elaborated before, is that we can't forget that this hobby is taking care of delicate animals. In any hobby where you are, and I hate to say it, but it is true, where you're subjugating an animal for your pleasure. Well, that sounds bad. That's not what I mean.
This is straight Skeptical Reef Keeping 6, I think. The first look at ethics. It's really the line you want to draw. I super appreciate, but the way we as a society treat animals in general and how we treat fishes especially makes it really, really hard to think that we could draw the line you're trying to draw and have it make a difference. When you can go fishing and it's totally acceptable to nail a bunch of living fish to a board and stand in front of it, be like this with thumbs up with your family about, look how awesome I am. look at this deer I just killed. It doesn't have to be so. It could be hello, Tipsy. Look at the deer I just murdered. You know, I don't mean to make it Southern or Texan.
I would say, as a Texan, I would say when you do harvest a deer, not like I don't go deer hunting, but I'm not opposed to it. But it's, as long as it's done, and I think by and large it is, you know, done carefully and correctly, but it's pretty fast. It's not like they take a deer and beat it up and nail its head to a wall.
It doesn't even matter, but it's the idea that over here on this side of the desk, we can fucking kill and do whatever we want to animals. No one really stops us. And in fact, we tell people to fuck off when they talk to us about being more humane. But over here on this side of the desk, you totally have to, you know, every guppy you must treat the same as you would treat a $2,000 fish.
When that's the
weird thing to say too.
The human thing, right? Like if something has 4 legs and eyes and it's fuzzy, like we're like, oh, don't thump it in the head. I'm not being mean to the client. And I wasn't, you know, when I was there, he had no like whiff of that I was being condescending to him. But you know, the first thing I do when I come up to a tank, I don't know. The very first thing I do is check the salinity, because the weird thing is it's always wrong, always, every damn time. And so it's the first thing that I check. His was 55 parts per thousand. And so I'm like, okay. And so I did what we all do. I was like, I cleared it all off. I zeroed it again and I rechecked it. And I was like, motherfucking 55 parts per thousand. Okay, we need to talk. And, you know, like, again, he told me in the elevator, like, oh, I've been doing this for a long time, blah, blah, blah. And I just needed to bring in an expert, blah, blah, blah. So I asked him, I said, hey, when the water level comes down, because here's another thing I didn't love about it, but it's run off of a canister filter. So you're seeing that, yeah, another great thing, but you're seeing that water level come down in the tank. And I was like, what do you, it was something like, I didn't challenge him on that, but I was like, where do you get the RO water to put in the tank? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, and then it's weird when you have to do what I do, because like my presence of being around a client is always like, you know, it's always professional. But when I'm taken aback by something they're not doing, the goal is to not make them feel foolish or bad or anything for it. But, you know, and I had to explain evaporation to this person, but, you know, without having a face like, what the fuck?
So here's what I think. I think an evaporation is a great one. This exact thing, topping off with fresh water, has always been a thing. It always gets taught. Everyone talks about it. People still don't get it, right? So it feels like it is so obvious once you know about it that everyone should know about it, but everyone doesn't know about it. And it's not their fault. See, I don't want to, just like recycling plastic is not your fault. The industry has done not a good job in making that information easily available.
But here's the deal. There's no same type of client is not, I asked, hey, do you go on any forums? No, doesn't go on any forums. Who do you talk to? Blah, blah, no. But he's been doing it for several years, and all the information that he's ever gotten is just straight from the store. But then the question I would have is, you know, how much of an onus, like, even if I say I was behind the counter and you just come in and I want this and that. Now, I feel like I was always a really good salesman, because normally you would think the person walking in the door asks a bunch of questions and I'm there to answer. The funny thing, as a salesman in stores, I always asked more questions than the person walking through the door did.
Yeah, but it's always like that, right? It's always like that. Look, even, you know, I remember those little Instant Ocean handbooks that talked about the nitrogen cycle?
Yeah.
Right? And a couple other things with like 4 pages.
Yeah.
And it was like, here, everyone gets one of these, read it.
I mean, I would do that if I had a store. Like, these are the basics.
Yeah, right. But even when you do that, people are going to be like, what? Because it's a new hobby. Yeah. So it feels like at some point they should know these things, but you never But it's the same with every hobby. You know, in kiting, we talk about how do you not know to not bring your kite to 12 when you're standing in the launch? Or, you know, how do you not know to go upwind, to go downwind in relationship to your kite before starting to go upwind to power up? How do you not know to not throw a kite up in the air when you're launching it for somebody? You know, so there's all these things where it's like, and these are like, if you do this, I could die. You
Yeah.
know, if you throw my kite up and it catches the wrong gust, I'm going for a ride.
Yeah.
And it's my fault because I'm the pilot, not you. But anyway, this, you know, you don't know until you know. And even, I think, even if we had a great, you know, so watching a video, why do all the trainings, you watch the video and then you take the little test and it's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Except for the one thing that gets into your brain that wasn't in there before. So if you pick up one thing every time. So if we had the Reef Beef video course of how to set up a tank, maybe people would watch it 4 or 5 times like we used to read the books 4 or 5 times. And you get a new thing every time that seems obvious once you know it, but you had to be at a place where you were able to learn it.
I do want to do that one day. And it's not for any fame that I think we would get from it. It's that because I always worked at stores and I always have that in my chops. And I always want to help that brand new person that doesn't even know that you don't put salt water in a tank to bring it back up to level.
Yeah, but it's funny too, though. When you get a person like that, and you tell them that, they go, oh,
he did.
They make that look of horror, like, oh my God, that's so obvious. I'm so embarrassed.
You know what? It was a weird shift in the conversation because the ride up in the elevator and all that, he was like, not that I asked him anything weird, but that he was being defensive about his knowledge and how long he had it, and was being sort of quiet with me. And then after I showed him that, and he didn't even know that there was cleaning magnets. He had been cleaning it by hand, and he was like, boom. And then he just started talking to me. He was comfortable with me. He's like, man, you'll just do it. You know, which before he's like, yeah, I've been doing it forever. And now he's like, dude, I want you to do everything. I don't want to touch it. It's all you.
So,
you know,
back to your beef. Yeah. Hobbyists don't educate themselves enough, but I don't know if we can be mad at them for that. When we really aren't giving them the tools to educate them as a, you know, what are you going to go on? You're going to go on, you know, reef to reef and try to educate you're going to come away from that being more confused. So the education, I think, has become siloed. A little club here, a little Discord group here, a little Facebook group there. You know, these are the people. There's my store. But there's no, and this is what I was hoping to do on the Mazda board, was help get some position statements about directions. So we're all kind of, new people can all kind of go the same way. Maybe that would be helpful, but that's not going to happen.
I know what you're saying, like something like, because I think of all the different methods but I would want to take this like 30,000 foot view where it's like, let's just, this little booklet or video, or whatever, is just about all the principles that we can't really argue about, being that, like, have your tank somewhere in about 78 to 80 degrees, have your salinity generally in about 35 parts per thousand. You know, the thing of like, when your tank evaporates, it's not bringing the salt with it. So don't put purified fresh water in, don't put salt water in there. Because some people thought, in which he thought, like, oh, the salt's leaving with it. And it's like,
yeah, of course.
And then the tricky thing, I showed him where to get a VG STX3 refractometer off of Amazon, because he had nothing in his house to check his own salinity with.
How was he checking it?
He was not checking it.
Oh, yeah. So
but again, it's like, you know, dude, but also like, okay, dude, I'm going to help you.
Well, at least his reaction was like, oh shit. Okay, great. I'm so glad I hired you.
Well, it's scary and it's crazy because like his assumption was like, well, I go to the store and they say they mix the salt where it needs to be, but it's like, but you got to double check behind them. And also, you know, it's just salinity. You have to look at it. I think maybe I'm trying to put myself in someone like his shoes, and maybe you would think, because sometimes I remember feeling like long time ago when I first started, that salinity was something that was supposed to be in a range like temperature was. But it's like, no, but you got to sort of pick a number. What do you want to be, 34? You want to be 35, whatever you want to do. But pick a number. I thought, oh, like, I remember people saying, you remember the swing arm ones?
Yeah.
And it would have the, like the group of, you know, 1.0, because it was specific gravity, 1.022 to 1.025. It would have a range in there. And I'd ask people and they'd show me and like, oh, it's in the range. And I'm like, no. Pick a number and stick closely to that number.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that, you know, how would you know that until you had reason to know that?
Well, yeah, because the thing says that, oh,
there's a range.
Yeah.
I want, if you can, I'd like to see your list of things that we can't argue about.
Oh, okay. That'll be hard, but yeah, I'll start to compile that.
Yeah.
I think it'll only end up being like 5 things.
It might be, but it fits in with some of the other ideas that we've had about content creation. So I want to see your list, and then maybe that'll give us a jumping off place.
3 to 5 that we can't argue about. It might be 1. It might be none.
That's why I'm checking your mind story by asking for the list.